I think we're online now, so I'll wait for some people to join. And if people are joining, hopefully they can hear me all right. If you can hear me, let me know. Awesome, so people can hear me. Happy days. Sabotage, yes, I'm so happy I finally got around to doing that video. That was something I think I've had in the back of my head for over a year now. It's like I need to get around to putting that video out and doing some stuff. And yeah, it was nice to see so many fellow Sabotage fans out there in the world. All right, how are things going down there? Pretty good, pretty good. The weather yesterday was absolutely wild and cold and stuff like that, and today the sun's shining, so I'm pretty happy. I had a lesson just before this. I had a guy come for his first guitar lesson ever, which was pretty awesome, and it's always really nice watching somebody, you know, play some open chords for the first time and have that moment of like, oh my god, I'm playing music, this is awesome. And yeah, can you guys hear, is everything coming out of like the center channel? It's not left, right, panned or anything? Because I've changed a few things from the last live stream that I did. Hopefully everything should be basically in mono this time. Just move this a little bit so I can actually read the comments. We got Vancouver. Sick. What's up? Awesome, that's really nice to know it's down the center. 6 degrees Celsius, is that the maximum here in Germany at the moment? I think it was 4 degrees Celsius last night. For all our American friends, if you want to convert between Celsius and Fahrenheit, well, you're on the internet, you can do that easily. All right. Well, where are we at? Hey, Jason Wade's here. I'm well, man. I hope you're doing... great. I'm very glad to know I've kind of sorted that out. So, what guitar is this? This is a 2008 PRS SC245. I bought this guitar in 2014 in Dallas when I was over there, right before a tour, and it ended up becoming the main tour guitar. And then when I came home, well, it was maybe a year or so after that, we recorded the Fractal album Back to Zero, and I used it for everything on there, and it's kind of like become the guitar. Celsius is for hippies. Well, I mean, you know, I look like a big filthy stinking hippie, don't I? So, yeah, man, again, talking about Sabotage there. What a great band. There were so many riffs that I left out, like Ghost in the Ruins. The intonation's pretty good. Like, I'm really surprised on this guitar that that this bridge just kind of works. You know, I'm in drop C as well, so it's you know, not optimal tuning conditions, but it just kind of works. I've got a McCarty with a similar bridge as well, and the intonation on that one's really good. 30, yeah, that makes sense. It's, you guys are getting into fall in America, aren't you? I remember the first show I ever played in America was in Oklahoma, and we're playing on this like dusty side stage at a festival, and it was like I still hadn't worked out. You know, I wasn't used to hearing about things in Fahrenheit, and someone was like, "Yeah, it's 112 degrees or something," and I was like, "Man, whatever that is, that's hot." So, oh, hang on, I'll just fix this so my computer doesn't fall over midway through the. There we go. All right, where are we at in the chat? How low do you keep your action? I, for the longest time, just set up all my guitars myself. There's still a lot of guitars that I have that I set up, but there's a guy in quite close to me actually, MT Guitars. Hopefully Tim will get on the chat at some point. He normally weighs in, and he uses a plec to aid with his setups, and I've had a lot of my main guitars plecked, and he does a bunch of stuff aside from using the plec. The plec's basically like an analytical tool, and his stuff's great. So yeah, I think it's like the medium-low plec action, whatever that is. I think it's probably 2 or 3 mil at the 12th fret on the E string or something like that. So PRS is a standard for guitar excellence. Yeah, I mean, their quality has not dipped at any point that I'm aware of, even though, you know, they're no longer handmade. They're obviously made on machines, but they're very much the new standard in a lot of ways, that kind of thing. Jackson Soloist or the Charvel 506, using a 12-string soloist, that'd be sick. When I was a teenager, my dream guitar was to have a soloist. I just love the way they look. I'm kind of like not as much of a fan of that particular look anymore, but I'd love to get one of those Charvel 5s, or just for the Sabotage thing, you know. I've got a couple of Hamers with that general vibe going on, the Super Strat thing. Everybody should have a good Super Strat, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, I like these, you know, obviously I really just like this guitar because it works, but as you can see, I own a lot of guitars. I'm a big fan of various things. So yeah, Charvel 5 or 6, I think, at some point is something I'd love to grab. Am I wasting my money getting the Axe FX 3 as opposed to the AX8? I don't know. It really depends on, like, you're kind of the only one who can make that decision. The Axe FX 3 is the best thing on the market at the moment, but the AX8 is a phenomenal unit as well. Like, for the money, I think it's pretty much unbeatable. And, you know, if you need headphones, you can get a $50 headphone amp and connect it to that as well. So the AX8's kind of like bare bones. GT is in the chat. Say hi to GT, everybody, because he made my new intro. And everybody comments on how good the new intro is, and I had nothing to do with it. He did all the work. So Melbourne's finally getting a bit warmer. I hope it's nice and warm when I'm there in March. We're playing Melodic Rock Fest there, which will be pretty awesome. I've been to Melbourne in winter. We played there a few years ago in June or July, and that was brutal. And then we played there in February this year, and it was so hot. That was just one of those shows where you just come off absolutely cooked. Been listening to Live at the Roseman all week. Oh, yeah, well, that's a funny little gig. That one we did, that was the end of 2011, and we filmed and recorded that show so that we could have a little, you know, promo reel to try and, you know, generate some interest. And as we were editing the footage and the audio for that one, we got invited to go on tour in the States. So that live recording sat around literally for like 5 or 6 years. And then I was cleaning out one of my hard drives, and I was like, oh, we've got the whole show recorded. I should just chuck it up on Spotify. So yeah, that was that one. Overnight Sensation, that was maybe the second or third time we ever played that song live on that recording. That You can hear obviously the Van Halen. It's a Van Halen shuffle to me, that song, but then there's a bit of the Lynch Mob. Is that how you play it? And then it's, what's the next part? Jeez, I can't even remember how to play. There we go, then it's... And on that thing about live albums, we actually recorded our last show in Melbourne. So at some point I want to get that mixed and have a live at Cherry Bar thing. Let's see. What do you recommend for ambient in terms of pedals? Strymon, dude. Their stuff, I think, in the pedal format is pretty hard to beat. The Boss DD500 and RV500 are really great. But I mean, they're pretty, like, between the DD500 and the Timeline and the RV500 and the Big Sky, it's pretty hard to split them, but I think the Strymon presets probably slightly edge it over there. There's another company called Meris as well, which do some really cool stuff. Or you could pick up a Fractal FX8 and have a bunch of really great stuff all in sort of one multi-effect thing as well. Let's see. Oh, that's awesome, GT. I really look forward to catching up. That'll be fun. I broke out a couple of my Les Paul clones after watching your vids. This is Sacha Cruter. A couple of modded Daisy Rocks. Ah, I remember those things. They were... Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of those in, like, guitar magazines from the early 2000s. I've never played one, though. Ooh, Daniel G has a good question. Some doomy, droney sounding stuff. It'd be cool to see someone get that kind of tone without a wall of tube amps. Yeah, that would be interesting. You don't get a lot of, I think so much of the aesthetic of that kind of doomy, droney, stonery stuff is, we've got lots of loud things. You know, it's as much about moving air as it is about the music. And yeah, that'd be really cool. I think there's a couple of high watt models in the Axe FX3, so I imagine like a high watt plus some treble boosters and a big muff would let me play around with this while we're here, because I've got Axe Edit in front of me. Let's see how close we can get. Easily the loudest gig I've ever been to was I saw Sleep here in Perth 3 or 4 years ago, and I knew it would be loud. But I was not prepared for just how brutally, crushingly, like, stupidly loud that gig was. It was awesome, though. It was... I was incredible. Like, I had a really, really bad head cold that day. And I was like, nah, I'm still going. And it was, believe me, it was well worth it. All right, what do we got here? Wow, this is very clean. This old high watt. A lot of mids. Let's add a bit of fuzz to this. That's kind of cool. This Hiwatt's interesting. I haven't really played around with it much. I reckon you would need some kind of big reverb on there as well to sort of cop this, like a big plate or something like that. Let's see. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent there. That doesn't really sound like Sun. Oh, that's more my really bad sleep kind of riffage. Let's see. The old Digitech rack amps. I have not, but I really want to try find a 2120 or something somewhere. Just because people keep raving about those things, and they had some cool features from what I understand. You should do a video on Matthias Jabs from the Scorpions. Yeah, definitely. He's everyone talks about the Scorpions and they just go Michael Schenker, but Matthias was the perfect guitar player, or Matthias, however you say it. Perfect guitar player for their 80s era, in my opinion. All right. We got Marcus from Brazil. Thank you, man. It's good to see you there. The differences between a rack wah and a regular wah. That would be really interesting. I've always wanted to get one of the Crybaby rack wahs because they have a... Matt Pike isn't loud. Changed my mind. Oh, boy. Believe me, this sleep gig was pretty close to the Brown sound. I think I was just pretty close to the Brown sound in general, so maybe that weighed into it. But I was close. Greg Summers is here. Have you heard Joel Hoekstra and Reb Beach with Whitesnake? Absolute monsters, yeah. One of my friends plays bass with Cher, and Joel also plays with Cher, so I understand Joel is the nicest dude in the world. And Reb Beach has been incredible forever. I love Winger. Absolutely love Winger. All right. I've missed a few things, so my apologies. I'll just sort of catch up. Would I recommend the HX Stomp Real World Opinion? I think it's hitting a spot. You know, the cool thing about that unit is there's nothing else that big because it's quite small with those kind of features. So I think it's a really, really cool unit. And yeah, Line 6 make great stuff, you know. People are always like, hey, you use an Axe Effects. Do you have like dirt on Line 6 to tell us? Like, do you hate their stuff? And really, I think it's great. And the HXH, as I would say it, is a really great little unit. So is the Atomic Amplifier. The Mua GE is really good as well. Yeah. And when the Fractal FM3 finally comes out, I'm sure a lot of people are going to love that one as well. So what do I think of the Eventide H9? Excellent unit. One of my favorite effects units ever. I have one. I can't move my webcam, but there's one literally sitting in a rack drawer right here. So I've got quite a few videos with the H9 on my channel if you want to go check them out. Where are we at? We got James Cox from Dallas, Texas. Dallas is my home away from home. That's very nice to see. Have you ever experienced the Brown sound? Already got to that one. How do you create your intro video? I didn't create my intro video. GT made that one. He's in the chat right now. So GT, if you want to spill some of the secrets, I personally would love to know how you made that because it looks so good. Warm Chord Music is considering picking up Fractal FC6. Are you better off getting FC12? It's really easy to get around with layouts. If you watch my video where I kind of explain layouts, you've got 8 assignable layouts, and if you set it up right, you can just page through them, which is really nice. So that's one really nice thing. But at the same time, if you do get the FC12 has layouts. It's double. It's amazing. As Greg's saying here, it's kind of like, do you want everything, or do you want everything but in a small package where you have to do a bit of unwrapping? We have Troy Nababan in the chat. Can you play Jimmy Buffett, Cheeseburger in Paradise? How does that go, Troy? Is it G, C, and D? Yo, CV, what's up, man? It's so awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the finest guitar players in the world in the live chat at the moment. If you don't follow his channel, you're missing out. What are you up to at the moment, man? Are you recording or are you out on the road? Yeah, as Greg said, where am I at? I'm really looking at getting the FC. I reckon if you're in the studio, probably the 12, because then you can have all your scenes and all your effects. Oh yeah, man, 100%. The biggest thing with the FC for me was I realized how much I was leaning over and clicking in Axe Edit or, you know, moving stuff on the front panel. So being able to just turn stuff on and off. I've got my FC here. So here it is. And I can just sit it down and I can scroll through stuff, which is awesome. And it looks like I've just moved to a... Oh yeah, that's I'm on my stoner scene at the moment. That's pretty fun, but yeah, just being able to have stuff laid out, like if I go to the presets layout, I realize you guys can't see any of this stuff, but, you know, here's like an Alan Holdsworth style clean patch. And then if I want to, I've got that bass sound. If I want to add crystals to it, I can chuck basically any effect that I want, a multi-delay. Come on, where's my preset? You know, there's this Blade Runner preset Matt Picone made, which sounds incredible. No, that's... Oh, here we go. And we're back to the Mesa thing, so... Oh, man. Taco Conch, dude, you're making my day with all these comments. This is amazing. The pedal board that I've got, which I just did a review on, is this one. Well, Nuex. That's their Bumblebee pedal board. And the 3M Dual Lock's amazing, so... that like perfectly fits an expression pedal and the FC6 on it. So, or you know, whenever the FM3 comes out, it'll fit an FM3 on there as well, which is pretty awesome. And back to this. So for me, I've got a layout which is scenes. I can go from C++, Mark IV, JP2C, JP2C Red, clean, I think this is a tri-axis. They probably all sound the same coming out of the YouTube thing. I've got a lead scene. But then if if I press the top right button, it'll take me to my effects. So for example, if I don't want the delay, I can turn it off. Then if I want a multi-delay instead, which is pretty awesome. Or if I want like the, whoa, let's go back. If I want the Plex reverb, and I think I've got more effects on another one over here. So that's really, really, I like that with the 6 because it's so compact. But if you had a, you know, if you had the 12, then you don't have to do any kind of paging across to get all that. Have I heard Prisoner by King's X? Yeah. How's that? There's actually a song we've been working on in the latest Ragdoll album, which reminds me of Prisoner by King's X. I can't play the main. It was like while I was trying to figure out how to play Prisoner, which I still can't play, I ended up writing this other riff, which has a very King's X-y kind of thing. I'll play you this really, really. Oh yeah, the 245. Yeah, man, this guitar, except for the machine heads, I swapped the PRS machine heads for Locking Gatto machine heads, which look exactly the same. It's totally stock, so stock pickups, stock electronics. I've had it for 5 and a bit years now, and it's been pretty thrashed in the studio and on tour. And yeah, it's very, very lucky. Man, CV, I would love to hear you on one of these, man. Was it an R8 or an R9 Les Paul you did some videos with recently? Or maybe not so recently, maybe a couple of months ago, but that thing just, I don't know. There's a thing, this is my theory, like when you get people who play humbucker guitars and they play single coil guitars, it's never as good as when somebody who knows how to get the most out of a single coil guitar plays a humbucker guitar, because you just get this like, yeah, that particular video I remember just sounding ridiculously fat and juicy and dynamic. We got David Shankle in the great David Shankle in the chat. Thanks so much for tuning in, man. I'm a massive fan. So Matt and I got back. Great guy, hooked me up with all the good stuff. David, Matt mentioned that you make some pretty amazing hot sauce, and I would love to try that one day. Yeah, CV, the Bonamassa one, man, that thing in your hands was a mighty, mighty fine piece of work. Who else? But yeah, let's see. Yeah, let me go back to this clean sound. So this is their Mesa Mark IV clean, the USA clean, and it's with the Plex reverb. So reverb really does those big sky style reverbs really nice. All right, let me catch up. Chat donations, yeah, I don't think they're enabled on my channel anyway, so I certainly don't get on live chat to try and, you know, beg for money. There's far better people you could give your spare change to on the internet at the moment. The mix on the reverb, dude, I will tell you right now, it's so Plex Verb, the mix, it's at 50%. Decay time's at 4.5 seconds, and there's quite a bit of diffusion on there. Yeah. Somebody mentioned that the Axe-Fx 2 got an update the other day, so if anybody out there is using an Axe-Fx 2, have you updated and how do you like it? Because that's pretty amazing that product has been essentially like superseded for nearly, what, 18 months now, and it's like, oh yeah, here's a new firmware update. I have a Rev Generator 120, nice. Torpedo Studio, also nice. The levels with tone matching, yeah, it's a bit of a thing to wrap your head around. I still don't think I'm great at it. I did a tone match video recently. I reckon the easiest thing when you're doing a tone match is to do an amp match, where you run like the torpedo into one of your inputs on your Axe effects, and then you match that. You run that through a cabinet in the Axe FX 3. So it's like, you'd have the raw amp model side by side with the rev generator and the torpedo. No cab sim on the torpedo. And then you'd match those, and then you'd run them into an IR. That's probably the best way to do it. Let's see. I've got an XFX 2, and I'm still catching up with reruns of Dexter. Yeah, GT, Ares 2, man. They released another update for it, so I don't have a 2, so I haven't updated. So I don't know what the performance is like on it. Ever played it on an Ibanez Maxus? No. They look pretty cool. I like Ibanez guitars. They always make good stuff. So if anybody's tried the XFX 2 firmware, please weigh in on the chat. Sasha, you obviously use a lot of amp and cab sounds. Do you use a lot of different amp, cab, sims, IRs when recording? When playing live, it's basically one sound. I'll show you guys my main live preset. I have 3 versions of my main live preset, just because sometimes different rooms, different sound guys like different things. So the main version of it is the rectifier, and this is such an absolutely rude, disgusting, fizzy mud beast, but in the context of the band, it really works. It's kind of like I'm trying to get that Dogman thing going on at all times. So there's that, and then I have a version of that based on the Atomica, which is way more mid-ranging. And then I have the same thing but based around the Mesa Mark IV. Whoa, that is... What's going on here? This is defaulting to the wrong scene. I want it to default here. And you can hear there that's not as loud, so I do need to go and turn my amp block up a little bit. Let's do that. Cool, I can save that. Sweet. And yeah, that one's, I mean, this is like the cheat mode where I've got more gain than the other 2 patches, so if I'm feeling particularly sloppy, I'll just use this one. So that one, same amp, same cab, and then when I'm recording, I basically use the same cab for everything. There's a cabinet that I just kind of always record with, and I've shot an IR of that. So I try to keep the cab the same and then just vary the amp models. That way, for one, everything's in phase, which is nice. And for 2, it's kind of like, you know, that way it's one less variable to worry about. On the Ragdoll stuff we've been tracking, there's one song which is like all rectifier model. There's another one which is mostly Bogner Uberschall model. There's another one which is based around the Herbert, another one based around the Brit number 34. So it's kind of like with each song, we basically just go, cool, what's the vibe? And is it a rock and roll kind of thing? Is it like a scooped mid thing? Is it a new metal thing? Is it like, what sort of tone do we want to go for? And then we'll choose the amp model accordingly for that. So live, not much. What kind of cabinet? The cab that I use all the time is a Marshall 1960B, and I shot an IR of that with Royal 121, Shure SM57, and an MD421. I've got that that IR I've shared quite a few times. All right, where are we at in the chat? No 24 fret PRS for shreds. I have a custom 24 as well, but I never play the 24th fret. Do I have any Fryette patches? I do. There's this one. Let me see. there's a patch I've got with just a bunch of underrated amps. Let me find it. Let's see, it's somewhere in the 70s or 80s here. I don't do preset changes live, so I'm not super used to using using this to find where my presets are. They're not very well organized. We're getting close, I think. I could just use the front panel as well. That would be a clever thing to do. Getting there. There it is, Underdogs. So this one, the VHC sounds great on this, I have to say. I'll just turn it down a little bit. What else? Taco Conch, the ridiculous price point. Well, it's something which comes up a lot. I don't think it's a ridiculous price point based on my needs, which are like, it's an interface, it replaces all my amps, it replaces all my effects. You know, I can do reamping with it. I can send a DI when I'm recording over USB with it. I can, you know, it like does so much stuff and it's so powerful. But I also understand that if you're somebody who needs like one guitar sound that you're happy with, maybe it's not the best choice for you. I think the ones, if you only use it for one sound, it's a great, great one sound as well. And there's lots of things which are more expensive than it. Like, you know, if you wanted to buy a Friedman BE100 here in Australia, it would cost you far more than an Axe-FX 3 and a foot controller. So it really depends. You know, I don't think it's a cover-all thing. Like, if you're a touring pro, then it's really, really, really cheap compared to shipping your gear around. If you're somebody who plays guitar for fun after work, maybe it is overkill. But depends on so many other things. Mike Muscarella, who isn't trying to get the Dogman thing all the time. I like you, Mike. I like exactly what you mean. This is all going through my interface and through OBS, so no camera mics at the moment. You can probably still hear. Play the Herbie. Yeah, I think I've got that one. Do I have that one in this patch? No, I don't. Herbie, I do have a good sounding Herbert patch. Somewhere. Come on, where are you? Here we go. Man, it's got this real like thick Marshall-y thing about it. I did some recording with this patch recently and it sounds so good blended with another amp. Like this blended with a rectifier or something. There's a lead version of that. Hey! Yeah, the Herbert's pretty wicked. I really like it. Even the one sound guitarist uses more than just one sound in reality. Yeah, probably. That's a pretty good thing. Yeah, I probably with this, if I was going to track with this, I would probably just pull a little bit more low end out, just because it's a bit kind of like flubby. Actually, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a multi-band compressor on this, because I can tame that, like, excessive thing that's happening with the chugs. All right, multi-band. I have a preset for this. That's better. That's better. And I'll just turn the gate up a bit. Well, the gate's kind of ridiculous at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, we'll do that. Ooh! Yeah, that's silly. That's great. So multi-band compressor, I've got the crossovers at 90 Hertz and 350 Hertz. The attack and release at 12 milliseconds and 25 milliseconds. Basically, the Andy Sneap Waves C4 thing. Without the multi-band compressor. That's probably overdoing it at the moment, so I might... I just want to get a little bit of... to stop those chugs building up, because you're going to end up cutting that anyway. But yeah, this is a sick sound. God, that's ridiculous. I like it. I like the Herbert a lot. I got to leave this multi-band thing in that patch. I think it sounds a little bit more mix ready that way. Anyway, I'm getting super distracted. Any good Gary Hoey patches? No, but Gary is a very, very underrated guitar player. But he's kind of like, he's like, who does he remind me of? It's like if Joe Satriani's Summer Song, if someone made a career out of that song. He's great. Let's see. I have a real Diesel Herbert. It just pops really loud when switching channels. Oh man, that's a shame. I know I did like an Axe Fest thing earlier this year in Boston, and they had Andy Wood come out for it, and he was raving about how much he likes his Diesel Herbert. He was just like, dude, it's the amp, you know? I'm buying an Axe Fest 3 right now. Dude, do it. Do it. Enjoy. Let's see. What do you think about the Axe IO Satriani endorse? I haven't tried it, or really popped up on my radar. One kind of thing that's a bit unfortunate is because I spend so much time doing YouTube stuff now, that I don't read like all the guitar magazines and websites that I used to, because I hear about gear from you guys. Like people will be like, hey, what did you think about this new pedal that came out or this new amp? I'm like, well, I actually haven't heard about it, but I'll look it up. So Axe IO, I will probably look into that now. Do you ever not use a whammy? Do you mean, do I ever use a whammy like a Floyd? Updated to firmware 8 today. Yeah, maybe try reinstall the firmware, and if it's still cooked, contact support. What's your tip for eliminating tremolo overtones? Yes, this is a good question. Let me start with 3. Oh, it's Silverchair great, man. I love that. I mean, what song is that? Israel's Son. It's a total King's X Soundgarden, you know, ripoff. But don't forget, those guys were like 14 when they wrote and recorded that stuff. I couldn't even tie my own shoelaces when I was that age, and they're writing riffs that go... Yeah, those guys in the 90s and early 2000s here were literally the biggest thing since sliced bread. I always remember we did a show in LA. We were playing at the Whiskey, and this guy came up to me from one of the other bands, and he was like, he said, "Oh, dude, yeah, I loved your set. My two favorite Australian bands are now Silverchair and Ragdoll." And I was like, man, you have no idea about the difference in scale you're talking about. Like, they're easily the biggest rock band in Australia, like, since the 80s. And we're just a bunch of guys, you know, sitting around in a basement playing riffs. But thank you, I appreciate it that that's your impression. So I thought that was really nice. That was his reference point for Australian music. Diorama's really good, man. That I ignored that album for a long time, and then when I finally got it, it was like, kind of blew me away. How does that? The Greatest View, is that the song? It's so good, so good. Yeah, this is a stop bar. Do I ever play guitars with whammies? Not really, but I have. Let me show you guys this. I actually have two custom 24s. This is the one that I've probably played the most. It's obviously got the custom 24 bridge, but what I've done, you probably can't see on the screen, but I've put pretty dense foam underneath the springs, so they don't make any noise. And behind the nut as well, I've got some, I think this was just like packing foam that I cut up and stuck behind there, and that really helps. This isn't really in tune, but you don't get any of that. Yeah, I think Johnsy played a Soldano as well, which is pretty cool. The only thing about this guitar is the frets are like, this guitar desperately needs a refret. So, but this guitar was a guitar that I took when we toured Europe, and I really started to notice that spring noise, so I kind of fixed that on, on tours, and it's been the stopgap that lives. Yeah, The Greatest View, that is the name of that song. I just love that they have a song called Tuna in the Brine. So the bridge on that isn't locked, but what was I going to say? It's not locked. I've just tightened the springs all the way up, so it's yeah. There was a thing that I was made aware of where there was some like tabloid thing about Daniel Johns recently that he, I don't know, frequents some S&M bondage dungeon that does brown showers, and I just myself and our friend Troy in here were talking about how it's funny that the mainstream press would print brown shower, and I'll let you guys go and figure out what a brown shower is. Needs a fret dress. I think they're pretty. You could dress the frets, but then they would be so flat. So I think I'm just going to get it refretted. Play your Greco. I don't have the Greco in here at the moment, but I will remember that for the next live stream, because that's a sick guitar. I really, really like that one. Where are we at? Do I have any Gibsons? Yeah, I got a couple of Gibsons. Probably the best one out of all of them is this guy, which sounds amazing. pretty sweet. I've got these pickups in here in particular are really cool. They're double creams. They're made by a local guy here called Martin Smith, and he makes these like super duper. Accurate may not be the right word. Maybe authentic. Just great sounding PAF style pickups, and I need to fix the wiring on this guitar. Oh yeah, and the switch is upside down. It's funny because I did a video with an amp a couple of months ago, and someone left a comment, and they were like, "Oh, it would have been good if you actually played on the bridge pickup for the whole video." Let's hear this with a plexi, because that's where the party's at. Should probably tune it, but yeah, we'll keep it authentic. Which band wrote that riff and song? The OBS settings. Let me see. What have I done? So I'm using my UAD interface, and I've just got stuff plugged into that. I've got the inputs. Well, I've got the monitoring muted on it. So I've got the Axe effects going into input 1, the microphone going into input 2, and then in OBS, I've just basically, it says audio input capture in the settings. I went into advanced audio properties and I downmixed it all to mono, which helps. And I basically just turned the main level up to 0 dB, and it seems to be working. So I think it's beginner's luck in my case. I really have never read much about OBS. I just kind of turned it on and figured out how to get audio into it and tweak the levels a little bit. So I'm glad it's working, but I don't really have too much like input there. So have I had any copyright strikes? I haven't had any copyright strikes. That Sabotage video actually came up and was like, oh, just so you know, there might be some music in there. So let's see. I feel like I need even more gain for this. Here we go. Something like that. Probably way too much gain and way too much delay, but that's part of the fun. I need to do a 5 killer riffs for Gary Moore as well, just because there's I love his stuff. I'm gonna grab a Strat now. I love his Corridors of Power album, and that was one of the first albums I ever tried to really dig into using a single coil guitar, and you can hear how twangy this thing is in comparison to that. Let me get something a bit fatter sounding. There you go, with the Herbert again. Jesus. obviously end of the world. That's not going to happen this morning. So yeah, Gaza ruled, man. Any thoughts about Richie Sambora? Not really. I will be honest and say that I probably, when somebody says Richie Sambora, I always think of him as a songwriter more than anything else. And the dude obviously wrote some incredible anthems from that era. But as a guitar player, I don't know. He's very, like, Richie's obviously a great guitar player, but he's one of those guys where when I think of the really great players from that era, you know, not to belittle anybody, or not that it really matters, but I always think of someone like George Lynch or, you know, Warren DeMartini or Yngwie. Like, I'm sure if Richie came out in any other era, he would be, like, hailed as a great guitar player, but he just happened to become popular at a time when, like, the standard for being good was so high, and maybe because of that, you know, a lot of people overlook him. But you know, like, even the solo to Living on a Prayer, it's a great guitar solo. You talk about, like, playing for the song. There's not a whole bunch of, like, shreddy stuff, but yeah, really melodic player, great songwriter. You know, you really can't knock the guy. If I got a wah on there, you might want to try Dragonfly. I don't know Dragonfly, but probably one of my favorite Yngwie riffs is Bedroom Eyes. Oh, well, I actually don't have a wah on this patch. Let me fix that. Maybe here. That's not really loud enough. We're getting there, people. Almost there, almost there, almost there. Here we go. I haven't tried an Eastman, but high on the list, I would have to say. Hey, Michael Bullington, I'm using my Axe-Fx 3 for all of this kind of stuff. And hello, Art Vanderlei. Oh, I still love that name. GT1000 is really, really good. I reckon if I was somebody using an amp, that as something for 4-cable method would be something I would really, really consider. Just because you've got the Boss DD500, RV500, MD500, you've basically got all of those in there. And that's a really attractive prospect as a multi-effects. I think I still really prefer the AX8 amp modeling, and my one big diss on the GT1000 is the way they implemented the cab modeling. I kind of get why they did it, but for me, compared to the AX8 or the Helix or even the way the Kemper implements cabs, it just makes so much sense to have a big cab IR library in there. But other than that, it's really, really good. I'm actually very impressed. I think at the start I was like, oh, it doesn't have a Marshall model or it doesn't have this, but it's I guess if you're used to the Katana, it's like a big extension on that kind of thing. So you sound like Hendrix. Oh man, I probably sound like Hendrix if I ever have to sing. That's about as close as I ever get to sounding like Hendrix. So they always talk about Yngwie licks, never Yngwie riffs. Yeah, man, because Yngwie riffs are where the party's at. I'd really like some more gain to play this, because I'm lazy. I'm just going to turn the gain up, because, hey, more is more, right? And then it's, what's the next part of the riff? That's a really good one. Well, there's that. Disciples from Hell is really good. Obviously, that's a great one. What's the one am I thinking of? Soldier Without Faith? Faith? How on earth does that one go? I used to be able to play that. We're going to have to look this one up. No, not Soldier Without Faith. Caught in the Middle. Is that it? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Marching Out's probably my favorite Malmsteen one. Caught in the Middle. So that's a killer riff. Dragonfly's great. Perpetual is really cool. All right, let's hopefully not get a copyright strike off this. No. This is not the song I was thinking of. On the Run Again, that's the one. There it is. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, and obviously. I Am a Viking. I remember hearing that when I was young and just being like, is this guy for real? He's singing about being a Viking. What a maniac. Talk about a great riff, 17, yeah. Really hard to play properly, too. All right, GT, peace out, man. Thanks again for the intro. It's, yeah, it's a really, really wonderful thing that you did, and I'll catch you soon, all right? Broadcast is in 480p. That wouldn't surprise me. Maybe that's why it's giving me some kind of thing. It's probably like a really crap webcam, so I apologize about the quality. I need to get a HD webcam. Would you rather sleep with a hot groupie or your favorite guitar? Well, all our hot groupies are all dudes, so probably go with my guitar, but that's just my preference. Not in the words of Seinfeld, not that there's anything wrong with that. Is the app plugged directly into the audio interface? It's plugged in directly to the audio interface, but because I've got a microphone to catch my voice, you're probably catching some string noise, like. So if I like unplugged the mic, you will hear just. And we're back. So, did somebody just put David T. Chastain in there? Wow. Instrumental. That is a great, great album. Any of that Shrapnel stuff, I got so into. David T. Chastain, Joey Tafela, Vinnie Moore. What was the other one? Dr. Mastermind? James Bird? Yes! Oh, that's amazing. Wow. That's so funny that this has all come up. There was another band, Apocrypha. Did you guys ever check that out? What's his name? Tony Fridianelli, I think. Anyway, he was in this Cacophony style band, and then he went and did Third Eye Blind. So if you've ever listened to Third Eye Blind, their guitar player on the DL sounds like Marty Friedman when he shreds. So buy a Boogie preamp rack. Well, if you've got a Marshall head with an effects return, you could probably get a tri-axis and run it into there and have the best of both worlds there. So, yeah. Yeah, Dr. Mastermind. That I downloaded one song on a file sharing service because it was the only thing I could get, and I've been looking for that album like forever, just because it's Shrapnel. And obviously Cacophony, you know? Learn the rest of that one day and actually practice it. Apocrypha from Las Vegas, yeah. I'm pretty sure that guy went on to be the guitar player and singer in Third Eye Blind, so there you go. But yeah, so much of that Shrapnel stuff, man. I used to have a little, I think because I bought like Perpetual Burn or, what was the other one? Like one of the Racer X albums. Then like I had a little catalog and it just had all this stuff and I was like, man, this just all looks so cool. Blue Murder, yes. We're getting onto the good stuff here. The really good stuff. What's the song I'm thinking of? Is that? Yeah. Billy, that's just such a grooving riff. Coverdale lost his mind. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. That first Blue Murder album, just to me, is what the next Whitesnake album should have been. Yeah, I'm not a huge, like, you know, because people always go, oh, Whitesnake, Steve Vai. And I don't think Steve was a very good fit for that band, to be honest, because, you know, there's this thing inherent in, like, a lot of the earlier Whitesnake stuff where it's dirty blues music. And Steve's incredible, but, like, when it comes to dirty blues music, like, John Sykes is supercharged dirty blues music. Doug Aldrich as well. Joel Hoekstra, like, all those guys kind of fit into that. You know, you've got to play a Les Paul and have that kind of really big, thick sound. And Steve, you know, incredible, one-of-a-kind artist. It was just kind of like, he just felt a little bit out of place in that band, I think. Sykes is a master of the universe, yeah. Yeah. It'd be nice to hear more music from him, but it just seems like John does whatever he wants, so I'm cool with that. We have the Blue Murder albums. Yeah, I mean, I think, and David Lee, like, Steve Vai playing with David Lee Roth is one of my favorite things ever in the world. Like, his kind of eclectic style works because, you know, David Lee Roth may not be the world's best singer, but he's just so charismatic, and Steve just kind of fit around that, and Billy Sheehan. That Eat 'Em and Smile album was just so cool. So, yeah, he kind of suits more that kind of thing, the really showy stuff, whereas Whitesnake just seemed like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it was his times. The last track on that Slip of the Tongue album, though, Sailing Ships, is fantastic. I love that. Do I make any money on YouTube? Yeah, I make a little bit of money through just through ads. Like, it's kind of like not a necessary evil, but, you know, you monetize your channel and, you know, it pays for a couple of coffees and things like that. So cannot complain with that. Montrose Rock Candy. Ronnie Montrose is another highly underrated rock guy. I think Ronnie Montrose, Frank Marino are two players that people should listen to a lot more as well, especially Frank. To get a post-metal kind of sound. Oh, that's interesting. One thing you could play around with for that kind of thing is running, like, obviously if you're going for like a post-rock kind of thing, lots of delay and reverb, but if you run like delay and reverb before heaps of distortion. So like add a reverb block like get a distorted sound, add a reverb block in front of it with a mix really low, and that'll kind of get you a little bit of that weird post-metal ambience. Like it's not a huge ambience, but it's an interesting thing. Or running a delay in front of lots of distortion is a kind of cool, interesting thing to do. So getting back into teaching guitar, yeah, that's a very good question. It kind of depends. I mean, where are you in the world, and what's your how do people, for use of a better term, sell their services there? Because for me, a lot of it now obviously comes through the YouTube channel, so it's kind of word of mouth. But you know, there's just your stock standard local classifieds where Gumtree is the thing here, or you know, I guess Craigslist or something like that. So yeah, it's obviously something you probably want to ease your way back into, but it's something I find really rewarding. Joe Farrell, sorry that I'm does it have loop back and stream the output? I don't know if you can. I haven't tried that, but it is an Axe Effects. Oh, if you're on the Gold Coast, man, just chuck some ads up on Gumtree and whatever your local thing is, like that. That'd be a great way to do it. How much do you modify guitar your guys from stock? I assume you mean guitars. Oh yeah, the Bissonette brothers, Bissonetti brothers. How do you modify your guitars from stock? I used to do a lot. I just basically do nothing now. Maybe change the pickups. Maybe if it's a guitar that I'm going to be gigging with a lot, I'll put locking machine heads on. And other than that, I just get them set up. And yeah, I really don't do a whole lot. Let's see. Not seeing the LTTV mix. Okay, so warm chord music. Are you going to axe change through Axe Edit? Because if you're doing that, I don't think it'll show up. I'll send you the link because it's on the website. And I think for whatever reason, axe change only goes up to a certain number. Probably something they should fix. Let's see. Let's see if this one comes up. Under cabs. There he is. Yeah, this was a total fluke, this particular IR. I'll just drop it in the chat for you guys. There you go. Yeah, the SC245 pickups are stock. Hey, David, checking in from Sydney. How is the weather in Sydney at the moment? Guitars. Yeah, so that Mix IR is up there for you guys to try if that's something you want. Just to give you guys an example of the difference between... What am I using? So I've got kind of... I'll show you guys... I'll let you hear the main IRs that I use. This one is the one that I record with the most. This is that Marshall 1960B. It's actually Troy's with V30s. This is the same cab but with a different mic blend. And then here's the TV mix. And that TV mix from memory is a Shure SM7 mic blended with a Royer 121. And I'll show you the difference between the blend and just the SM7. So the Royer just warms stuff up a little bit. It's a really nice blend. I also uploaded, if you go to the forum, some warehouse guitar speaker IRs, a Reaper and a Green Beret. This is what they sound like. I did a couple of mixes. Here's the Green Beret. This is a 57. Sennheiser 609. That's a Fathead, a ribbon mic. I really like the SM7 on this. And then the Reaper, which takes your face off. It's so bright. SM7 on the Reaper. So yeah, the Reaper's really bright, but there's a couple of I find like a ribbon mic on the Reaper and a dynamic mic on the Green Beret makes a really good mix. That's, what is that, Mix 3 from that pack that I put up. So yeah, you can go and grab those as well. I think they sound pretty fun. That's awesome. I was in Sydney in March. My wife's parents, who are American, came over, so we met them in Sydney and had such a lovely time there. What does TV stand for in this context? The IRs are from a Marshall tall vintage cab, so stands for TV, and they are the 25-watt greenback speakers in that case. Yeah, a bit of rat and roll for you guys. Nearly all my IRs and patches are available for the Axe-FX 3 and the AX8. They are on the Axechange there, so I don't sell any of them. You can get them all for free, but I am building an Axe-FX 3 tutorial library through Musicon. So if you want like a fully featured deep dive, like comprehensive library, I'm going to put that up, and that'll be I don't know what the pricing is going to be, but it should be pretty well priced, like, you know, $10 to $20 or something, and that will include a bunch of patches and IRs as well for anybody who wants to go super deep. So everyone throw off your panties. Taco Conch, I like you, man. Thanks for subscribing. I look forward to reading all your comments because this is good. How not to play Sweet Child of Mine. Yeah, that'd be sick. I'd almost definitely get a copyright strike, but one thing I like doing, you know, with Sweet Child of Mine is practicing double picking. So if you take the riff and you double every note. The rubato through the Friedmans. Yeah, man. I was actually... It's funny you mentioned this, Pete, and welcome to the chat. It's good to have you here. We rehearsed yesterday, so I actually used this guitar for the rehearsal, and it was awesome because it's so light playing standing up. And I've got a Friedman's preset that I put together here. Probably have to tweak it a bit. So what do we got? There's the HBE. I think these are actually a really good match for this guitar because it's a brighter sounding guitar. It's kind of like a telly because you got mini humbuckers and obviously carbon fiber. It's really thin. It's a really loud guitar, really, really extended top end, which is nice. And the Friedmans are a bit bassier and darker. So the double pick Sweet Child of Mine sounds like a cynic riff. Yeah, that's something Paul Gilbert would do as well. And then you could go... Oh, man. Not good at this. Yeah, that's a fun one to do. Oh, yeah, exactly. Guitar exercises that become hits. Can I play Little Wing and For the Love of God on it? Alright, I probably need more. Check out the song "The Space for This." The most, yeah, ugh, yeah. Cynic. I remember somebody showing them to me, and it didn't seem like you were allowed to do what they were doing. It's sort of like, hang on, this is metal, but like, there's Alan Holdsworth licks in there. Like, what's going on there? What was the other one? Pete Malandrone. Let's see, Little Wing. So I probably need a clean sound for that one. Cleanish. Presets. Is this a clean sound? Yeah, maybe this one will be better. Maybe not the best. I'm in a drop tuning as well. Let me fix this. The tuning's really good on it. Like I said, we rehearsed yesterday. I haven't gigged it yet, but I didn't tune my guitar during the rehearsal, so that's a big win. And we were playing some riffs, believe me, man. It's really, really solid. I found as well, like I've been going between standard tuning and drop C a lot on this guitar, and it's behaving itself really well, so very impressed. This is a little bit more like it. Oh god, I'm going to embarrass myself now and forget how to play something really stock. Where's the reverb on this? I'd like a slightly different reverb, please. Wow, that's way too much. Let me change that. Bit of verb always helps with this kind of thing. Yeah, there we go. So, the worst version of Little Wing you'll hear all day. Play the solo next, don't we? Let's go silly with the guitar solo. Play that song to save my life. I think because I heard the Stevie Ray version and went, nobody's ever going to do this cooler, and basically gave up on it. So, would you... oh, would I rather shave my head or floss with a high E string for a week? Oh, man. I like having long hair, but I think I like having teeth more. You would just ruin your teeth with that, wouldn't you? Oh. Yeah, are we talking like an 8 gauge or a 7 gauge or a 12 gauge? Like, my pleasure, by the way, Pete. Yeah, great guitar. Absolutely great guitar. Very, very unique. I reckon it would be probably the only thing which would be nice is the ability to swap in full-size humbuckers, but at the same time, that's kind of like a cool thing about it. It's like, it contributes a lot to the personality of the guitar, and the older I get, the more I'm just looking for guitars that have personality. Yeah, shave your head and get a wig. Exactly. Where we at? FC6 question. Can you page over to the other 6 spots in the same layout to use them? Can you page over to the other 6 spots in the same layout to use them? If so, how? What do you mean by the same spots? Sorry if I don't follow that, man. Guitars are like kids. They're a bit easier to keep quiet, I think. You can't put a noise gate on a child, unfortunately, sometimes, so... I'm doing some Instagram guitar playing for all of you right now. You know, if you play major 7th chords and a bit of neo soul, a bit of... And also there's this one move you have to do, the that bend, the Matthias Asato thing, let's see, 12 spots but only 6 are usable in one layout. Can you page over to the other 6? Okay, I get your question now. So there's 12 spots, you can only get 6. Each layout, you can assign whatever you want, but you can only access 6 at once. You would need to go to another layout to get to that. But there are 8 layouts, which makes it nice. However, you can use a thing called stand-in switches. You can have up to 4 stand-in switches, so you could kind of make it like an FC10 per layout. Michael Anthony wrote everything he played. Interesting. Michael Anthony's super underrated, man. What a great singer. What a great guitar player as well. Use pitch modifier on mixer or multiplexer to blend between different amps. I don't think you could do that on the multiplexer, but it would work on the mixer. I'm my secret Instagram demoer. Yeah. The tapping thing. So what you do is you play a chord, and then you do that. I also like just hitting the same note every time, so you play like a bunch of chords. Ridiculous, right? The standing switches, they mirror whatever the assignment is on the FC. So I think you can use either. Like you could have, if you had, say, like the Boss FS7, that has 2 switches. Then you could have 2 of those plugged into the... So there's 2 pedal jacks, but they support like ring tips. So you can have 2 pedals for each of those. So you could have up to 4 stand-in switches. The other thing which is really cool with tapping stuff is... you know, I steal this one from Stu Ham, so like... It sounds like that Ludovico Anudi dude. Yeah, I said his name really well, didn't I? Genius level right there, Leon. You know, that piano guy, so it's like... this looping preset that I've got, which is pretty sick, using a tape delay. Yes, here we go. So check this out. And where's the looper at? Cool. So let's make a loop, shall we? So that is, there is a tape delay in there, but the tape motor speed is attached to a square wave LFO. So what happens is on the beat, the motor speed doubles and then goes back to normal. So what that does is it doubles the pitch of the repeats and then halves them. So you get this. You just get this really cool thing going on. I've just got a normal expression pedal, not a spring-loaded thing. So yeah, that patch, I literally sat down for about an hour and I made this loop and then I moved the looper and I played around with the delay. Yeah, you can do some crazy stuff. I've got another version of it where I use the expression pedal to change the loop speed. School pitch shifting, confirmed chill hop artist. Yeah, actually, I do a lot of looping for acoustic gigs, so that's just a thing which I think I'm pretty used to. I love that ambient looping stuff. I'm not somebody who sits here and plays like loops power chords and then solos over it. I love this kind of clean ambient stuff going on. Yeah, I mean, a lot of, obviously, like, I love 80s rock, but you can do so much more with, like, tapping techniques than just Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen's great, Vito Brada's great, but, yeah. Well, that's not working. This is doing what I want it to do now. Let's see. Having said that, let's just go nuts, and we've got a John Sykes patch here, I think. This should work. I don't spend a lot of time tapping, so any words of wisdom for those who hate PRS guitars? Don't play them. That would be the easiest thing. Find the guitar that you do love and play that one. Let's see. Yeah, my point was like that, you know, there's a lot of cool instrumental stuff still to be done with the guitar. You don't just have to be Joe Satriani to do instrumental guitar music. I was listening to something, are you guys aware of, it's Emil Wurster? He used to play guitar in a band called Darth. He's like a PRS artist. But he has an instrumental project, which is like, it sounds like Ennio Morricone crossed with, I don't know, like industrial music or something. Something like that. Yeah, the tapping thing, it's such a flashy technique. None of it's, I mean, compared to doing this, like... Trying to do everything with just your left hand, I find far more challenging than, yeah, you can make a joke about that. But, you know, you add some tapping. I like the Red Beach style tapping. I can't really do that very well, but, yeah, man, Emil's great, if that's how you even say his name. I'm probably butchering it, but you think that people are still interested in learning how to play guitar? Yeah, definitely. I spend a lot of my time teaching teenagers how to play guitar, and a lot of them get turned onto it. I was kind of making fun of that whole Instagram thing, but because they see people playing cool stuff on Instagram. And one really weird thing is that a lot of like, because of chill hop and because of a lot of like, a lot of the stuff you hear on SoundCloud and a lot of like neo soul stuff, jazz is kind of cool again for these kids. Like, you know, it's in a different context, so it's not like, it's not coming from this sort of like, they don't think of like Alan Holdsworth, John Scofield, Miles Davis, that kind of stuff. They think about, you know, what's that Kanye song with that kind of cool jazzy sample? I want to do that. Or they think of Tash Sultana and like live looping and using cool chords. And Hiatus Coyote are another really great band worth checking out. Let's see. You know, it'd kind of, and they're doing these things in a context where it's not like a jazzy tone. It might be like a kind of weird lo-fi, like echoplexy kind of thing, but they're... Yeah, something like that. I mean, it may not be that you turn on the radio and you hear a screaming Floyd Rose dive bomb followed by like a really loud rock band, but honestly, that's not the medium that kids use to listen to music now. It's YouTube, it's Instagram, it's social media, and you know, so many people put out some cool, just cool stuff where like I might recognize it and go, oh yeah, they're just playing major seventh chords. But when you show a 15-year-old kid how to play this, they'll immediately be like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I want to do that. I want to write some chilled out music. So that's a kind of weird thing where it's kind of like come back around where you've got all this jazzy stuff, but it's almost like in this context of electronic music or hip hop or something like that, where people are reaching it and doing stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool, I think, and it's way cooler in my opinion than a lot of jazz fusion, which I struggle to listen to a lot as well. So no dive bombs on cassettes. Hey man, the dive bomb needs to make a comeback though. So yeah, I don't even know if it's like, I mean, we're in a kind of post-cool world where you know, like I said, most of the teenagers that I teach, even the way they dress, if you dress the way they dress when I was their age, you would have been so uncool. It's like cool to look like your mum dressed you now, and you know, wear old like recycled 80s Nike looking things and stuff like that. So Um, yeah, I wouldn't say that there's no like guitar heroes for kids. It's just different, you know. Like if you guys have ever checked out, go and check out Melanie Faye, and look at what she's doing and how young she is and what she's playing. She's basically playing Wes Montgomery licks, but making it cool. Teenage girl endorsed by Fender, like massive, massive deal. Really, really interesting. Obviously, you have even somebody like John Mayer. You know, like kids. I have kids come in. They're like, "Yeah, I want to be able to do what John Mayer does because he's a great guitar player," which is awesome. You know, it's like, yeah, um, in general, and I think it's a pretty good principle to go on. Is it's like, kids aren't dumb. Like they're not dumb. They're actually really pretty switched on, and maybe where the deficit is it's like maybe they just haven't been exposed to a lot of stuff because of everything else. And you know, there was a lot of great music that came out in the 80s and 90s that people weren't exposed to because hair metal was being rammed down their throat. So if you weren't into that kind of thing, you probably might have had a really hard time. If you were somebody who liked post-punk, would have been a lot harder to find that stuff than it is now. You can just go on YouTube and look up lo-fi weird music and you're going to find some stuff. So yeah, I think if anything, when I was growing up, every guitar magazine you would pick up had like the guitar player from Korn or Slipknot just being like, how uncool is it not to know what you're doing? Like, I don't even know guitar. Like, it was cool to be crap, basically. And, you know, those guys made a lot of great music, but, I mean, look at someone like Mick Thompson from Slipknot. The early Slipknot press stuff was still like, yeah, we just down tune and we riff, but he's a great shredder as well. He was kind of like a closeted shredder, and then, you know, they came out with Volume 3, and that's much more of a, like, metal album, and he's playing stuff. And I remember when that came out, that was like, maybe it's going to be cool to shred again, or at least be competent. So anything that I think encourages creativity and competence and that kind of thing. Because when I was growing up, guitar solos were so uncool. It was like the worst time to start playing guitar. All my friends were like, "Oh, what are you playing Deep Purple for? That's old person music." And I think because of like Guitar Hero and because of streaming services, people now just kind of listen to stuff they like a little bit more. So yeah, you know, it's sort of like, and Ken, what's up, man? I'm sure that's an attitude, like that's my dad's attitude to music as well, is it's like, you know, because I'm sure you're probably somebody who lived through the death of like hair metal being, or like metal being popular and being like the top dog. Obviously you had grunge hit and it was like, you know, the opposite. Instead of being like, yeah, how cool is it to be the fastest guitar player, it became anti that. Like everything just went the other way. That was the marketing strategy that the recording industry used. It's like, well, we've milked big hair and epic 12 octave range singers and shredders. Let's do the opposite now, and we'll do flannel. And I think there was a lot of, like anything, a lot of really, really crap music, but some really good stuff. Like I ignored a lot of bands that I really like from that era just because I was like, oh, they're anti-shred and I like shred. And now I try to, you know, nowadays you don't have as much of that. It's just kind of like listen to whatever makes you happy. So yeah, that's interesting, Robbie, that you mentioned Billy, because it's like, it's a really good example. Her stuff is, whatever you think about it, it's, the production on it's incredible. Like, really, I will admit, it's not my cup of tea, but it's not music made for me. You know, that's the point. It's just kind of like, it's not for me. And if you don't get it, it's probably not for you. You know, it's like, I'm not a 15-year-old girl. That music is not made for me, but it probably speaks to 15-year-old girls. So fantastic if people get around it. And I guarantee you in 5 years, there will be somebody else who is catering to that market and, you know, has the marketing machine behind them. But it's just, yeah, I think when you realize maybe it's not for you, then Just listen to the stuff that you like. And I think a really good... who made this point? Verstamp. Yeah, the thing that I realized that's good. There's so many people who got into guitar playing because of Nirvana or Korn or Deftones or something. I think Steph Carpenter's a really good example from Deftones of somebody... You don't have to know what's going on to express yourself. Like, you know, he just looks for sounds, and they're a unique sounding band. Whether you like it or not, there's character there. And I think it's more about having a character and having an identity than looking at... Because you're never going to make everybody happy, you know. The saying I try to live by is that the surest, you know, the most certain way to piss everybody off is to try to make everybody happy. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that move away from obviously recording with guitars and bass and live instruments, but then a lot of shows still have live musicians. So, heroin is a hell of a drug. Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, and I think the thing is as well is like, you know, it's really easy just to blame the kids and say that they're stupid, but you know, I don't think they are. Most of the kids that I teach are really switched on and really open. And whether, you know, you mentioned Greta Van Fleet. Greta Van Fleet are probably a band I'm never going to take the time to listen to. But whatever, if you dig it, listen to it, man. It's like, just enjoy it for what it is, you know? It's really, really easy to get caught up in that kind of thing. If you think something's not music, don't listen to it. Listen to the stuff that you like. That's the easiest way to go about it. And you spend far less time worrying about it or arguing about semantics, and you can just rip in and play guitar. That's my attitude anyway. So, yeah, how are we on time? With that, I might actually sign off. This has been a really, really fun chat today. Everybody in here, we didn't get any trolls, you know. One more question. With Bent Knee. Yeah, Ben Levin, because he does all the... Yeah, all right. I'm reading your comment and commenting, and I should read it. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's weird. Sometimes I just like weird music. That's part of the fun. Sometimes it's about finding sounds you've never heard before. Sometimes you want to hear the sounds you've heard before and just sit on a riff that sounds like Led Zeppelin, so that's awesome. All right. 1956 vinyl gent. That's amazing. Alrighty. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much for all the input. We'll do another live stream next Friday. You guys are wonderful. Be good to one another. Enjoy your weekend. Play some guitar. Play some music. Don't sign off. Fight the power. And Taco Conch, thank you so much. You've absolutely made my morning here in Australia in the future. You guys are rad. I'll see you next time.